Hello guys, how are we doing? Are you an SMG player at heart and just don't find yourself doing as well as you'd like on MW3 ranked play? If so, today's video is going to be perfect for you because that's exactly what this is going to be. It's going to be SMG tips and tricks on how to improve your gameplay with a sub. The maps are very AR dominant, which means that those of you who just like to run around like a headless chicken getting kills probably might be having a hard time. This is a gameplay where I go 35 and 15, 14 even, sorry. So it's an absolutely stellar gameplay, super high aggression with a sub, and I use a bunch of things I outlined in this tips and tricks video in this video. So hopefully you guys can, adopt some of that in your own gameplay and fry as a sub player. So before we get into it, I'm just going to say these categories we're going to be looking at. We're going to be looking at different, so hardpoint, S&D, control, and just general tips and tricks. So there are going to be a variety of different things I'm going to mention, as well as some screenshots on which might help you out. So kicking it off with the hardpoint bits and bobs. So there are two main roles in an SMG on hardpoint. You typically have a roaming slayer who sit between the enemy spawn and the hill, and they're basically sitting corners ready for them to come for free kills. It's really annoying, fast-paced, and good at getting out of sticky situations. So in order to be this sort of player, you need to know the spawns and be very aware of where they're spawning, and know where to sit and where to play and get a kill, get out of dodge for free. The other sort of side you have on SMG role in this game is the dirty worker, and that's been the same on all sort of cards. And this is a guy who baits for other players. He sits in the hill when there's a close game, close range engagements occur in the hill, and they just do the dirty work, the work that no one else wants to do as a sub. Now in MW3, you tend to be sat in the hill simply because the line of sight on this game are super long frequently. So a lot of maps I have played have one SMG meta, so you have to sort of adapt to both roles. So in this game, there's a lot of long lines of sights, so there tends to be maybe 3 ARs. You see me use one here because it was more beneficial for the team for me to have one at this point, which I'm going to get onto later. But you tend to see 3 ARs, so the SMG often has to adapt both roles. You have to be a baiter, you have to be that really dirty working player, as well as trying to slay out when the opportunity presents itself. So maps like Karachi and Skid Row are slightly better for 2 subs, so you can sort of have a little bit more of a balanced approach, but still require more ARs in a couple of hills, which is why I sort of subbed it out to here, because this is a little bit more of an AR dominant hill in my opinion, and like things like P5 on Skid Row, P2 on Skid Row as well, are both fairly AR dominant. Now, if you're the only sub on the team, you have to be willing to jump in first, do the dirty work, and become the roaming slayer, what I say. But it's when it's split, you sort of take on different roles, but you still have to be adaptive to what the rest of your team are doing. So here's an example of 2 hills. The first one I'm going to be looking at is one where this is on sub base. P2's live, which is where the green square is, and you can see that the enemy team are going to be spawning to the right hand side of the map, and you don't really need the only sub on this hill has to be doing the dirty work, and that is sat in the hill, being that very last resort. If all 3 of your other teammates die, all you really have to do is be there for that last kill in order to prevent them from getting on the hill. That's essentially what your job is. Play a tight angle, watch the window like I'm doing here. Well, as you can see, you've got 3 other teammates all using ARs, watching tunnel, left, right. That's essentially a really good example of what you could do as a dirty working sub, and that's where you would have to adapt to that role. Now, on the flip side of that, you can see here we've got a Karachi overview, the map we're on. P2's live, and it's really, really important. Now, if you've got cafe spawns and the enemy team are spawning towards like P3 or the mini market, you push out as a sub to red. You play top red, bottom red, and you just be that really annoying player between where they're spawning and the objective they're trying to obtain, i.e. P2. Whilst you're doing that, you can have an AR in the hill watching the flank, which is what this sort of diagram depicts. Another AR sort of helping over you, looking over you, trying to pick up the people you can't, and then one AR almost trying to pick up a flank route. Now, in the position in this screenshot, you're seeing the enemy will be spawning where number 4 at the very bottom right near the car there. They will be spawning there. So this is a nice actual setup for this sort of hill, but that's just an example of how that can happen. Now, on Search and Destroy, there's a couple of things you gotta do. It's very similar, sort of the same ethos goes around no matter what map or what mode you're playing with. But you have to really watch close angles and play passive, and then play off the smokes of a slower placed AR player. Now, you're more likely to have 2 subs on S&D, map dependent obviously, because you can have that a little bit of flexibility on where you can push, where you want to hold and things like that. You also just want to find openings on the map using the information and getaway routes. So you need to be that real fast-paced, get out of dodge sort of character. Again, you could potentially have smokes yourself, so pop smokes and get to the harder to reach areas and play off an AR, or just cut off the map and be annoying in a larger area, say like the top of Skid Row, for example. Now, you can do this on offense or defense, it doesn't really matter. Now, in essence, for S&D, this is going to sound very obvious, but you'll be surprised how many people don't get this. You simply want to hold the tighter angles and areas on defense and be the instigator on offense in the areas where you're likely to succeed. Now, that's the biggest thing here. You don't want to instigate A Street on invasion with a sub because you're going to get ripped off a heady with an AR. And this is the tagline I want you guys to take away from this. If you know, if you're in a position where you think you'd lose a gunfight to an AR, as a submachine gunner, you're in the wrong spot, so move and pick a place where you would win a gunfight. So here's an example of how you can play two different roles in Search and Destroy. The first one we've got here is a Skid Row map, so the blue team is what I'm referring to here, and the two sub-players I've got here are number 6 and 5. And you can see here, number 8 and 5, apologies. Number 6, who's a slower place they are, has thrown a smoke top plat, and then allowed number 5 and 8 to just get up top, do the hop up super quickly without anyone really knowing. And then from there, they can either pinch P3, kill the guy top plat by pinching, and just be that really annoying top mid player without people maybe even knowing they're there. So that's a nice way you could run off that. Secondly, this is a little bit different on invasion. This is a little bit more of a different defense approach. So for example, here you can make a route. So number 7, the top of the map, has run off spawn, smoked the cross just outside DVD, and then sat in broken. And from here, they can sort of watch their push towards B. They're playing a little bit more offensively here, and they can pretty much just roam around that top area here that's highlighted in blue and just be that really annoying player. And then they can be, even if they think they're going to lose a gunfight, they can play for info, let the players know on the enemy, the rest of the team. And number 6 can maybe leave the mid tank and help them out through dark as well. So you've got to really play with that info. Now, towards the middle of the map, in Cafe, or the old P1, you've got another sub-player who is playing a very similar role. You're holding that whole building to yourself. From there, you can see out the window, you can get a little bit of info, you can watch the cut from fire truck, which is what this guy's doing, which is what that arrow is doing. And you're basically owning the A bomb site here. You can open that door, just to double check the bomb every so often, but realistically, you're owning that area of the map, and that's a nice way you can use your sub. And then you can play off your ARs for both that convoy and mid tank as well from that position. Now on control, it's very similar to S&D and what you could do. It's like the logic behind it is very, very similar. So on defense, you want to hold closer angles and play in tighter areas. And then when stacking objective, you want to hold the tighter cuts when you're more likely to win the gunfights. Now on offense, you really don't want to let the enemy out of their spawn. So there's a couple of ways in which you can just spawn trap them and be really annoying. So Karachi is a great map for it. Invasion's a little bit tricky, but you can do it with a sub because there's many, many buildings in the enemy spawn if you're on offense. But yeah, here's an example of Karachi, and you can have a sub literally just roaming this area, running the streets, playing around, white truck, yellow street, top church, bottom church, being that really annoying, getting a kill, dipping and diving. People probably might not be expecting you off spawn, and you're just going to get in their heads from here. If they're running off spawn to an SMG, just pre-aiming them, you're going to be chilling. But obviously, for this to be really successful, you're going to have to know spawns and which way they're going to be spawning. So you've got to play off that player. You've also got another sub, number 1, the very top left of the map, who's holding that tighter angle. He's not letting anyone over the jump up. Now, he could get on the hill, which is in the cafe, but in order, what the setup they've got going here, no one on the blue team is getting out, so it gives them time for the ARs to get on the hill. Number 1 can hold this really tight angle for the hop up. Number 2 can just be that roaming slayer around yellow, mid-church, and play off the ARs, and then go from there. So they're the main 3 gamers that you're going to be playing, obviously. Now, general tips and tricks for a sub. This hill is horrible. And this is going to be very obvious again because, you know, it is fairly logical. But you hold... The general side of it is you want to hold close angles and line of sight. And I say it again, this is a very big takeaway to take from this. If you feel like you'd lose the gunfight to an AR, move to another position while still being helpful. Don't just sit in the corner not watching anything. You still want to be helpful to the team. So that's all easy, well and done. That's easily said. But if you are the only person who's able to watch that really important angle and you feel like you can't move from it because for whatever reason you feel like you have to be there to watch that gunfight or to play that area, all you have to do is sub, shoulder, live mark, and communicate to your team. That's literally what you want to do. Maybe put a couple of warning shots out there to be annoying, but realistically, don't challenge the gunfight you don't think you're going to win, because you're going to die and then you're going to be a loss to the team. But shoulder it, live mark, and play off your other teammates. And just, it's better off you getting all the info you can whilst being alive than trying to challenge a gunfight and dying and then getting the info, because you'd have the info anyway. You also have to be very aware whether your team are, so you know that you won't flip spawns by slaying out too much. This more relates to hardpoint and control. But if you push it on too far in a certain direction, you're going to give them beneficial spawns for them. So you just want to be very careful of that. And then you also want to work with the other team members. Don't get caught on an island 100% of the time, because no one's going to be there to trade your kill. Bait for them in long-range gunfights. Ask them to bait for you if you're entering a small hill, if you're the only one with a sub, so on and so forth. Finally, know when to pull out an AR. So there's hills which are just far more AR beneficial. As I said, P2 Skid Row, P5 Skid Row. There was a hill on this I pulled out an AR just because it was more beneficial for the team. And on control, sometimes it's more beneficial for you to have an AR. Just knowing to pull out an AR, learn how to use it. And hopefully with these tips, you're probably using an AR anyway, because that's just that's the game. But hopefully with these tips, you'll at least be able to flex a little bit more. So that's going to do it for me. Hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know if I missed anything down in the comments, and I'll catch you in the next one. Ciao for now. That's why I've been uploading every day, because it's been popping.
Yeah, them spawn